The High Republic Edge of Balance is quickly becoming one of my favorite Star Wars stories of all time. While it is set in the High Republic era and is part of a much bigger story, Edge of Balance, much like Trail of Shadows, can stand on its own and be its own unique story. Volume 1 gave us great introductions to the characters of Lily and Keerin, and now their story finally continues with Volume 2. From Volume 1, we as the readers learn that Mr. Zerrett was a secret Nihil operative among the villagers of Banchii. The Nihil are now planning their next big move, that move being, of course, to cut all communications to Starlight Beacon. Meanwhile, Lily and the Doctor are discussing the spores from the Drengir and discover that these Drengir are unique to the planet and seem to be the only ones that turn their victims into wooden husks. But now that the threat is gone, they can focus on rebuilding. Lily is dead set on having bunkers built into the ground, giving the settlers a place of protection in the event of a Nihil or Drengir attack. But the villagers are uncertain and feel that it would be more beneficial for them to start rebuilding the fields for their crops. This whole situation puts a lot on Lily's shoulders, as she is now virtually in charge of overseeing the rebuilding process while also looking after her Padawan Keerin and the two younglings Nima and Vivnia. Surprises seem to keep dropping out of nowhere as well, as a Jedi Vector comes flying into the village, landing right in the middle of their construction, revealing Jedi Master Sav Malagin arriving looking for Master Arkoff, only to find that Lily is the Jedi leading everything for the moment, as Arkoff has gone to Starlight Beacon. After Lily explains the situation, Sav believes that this is not the best way to spend their time. The Nihil will make short work of these bunkers, and if they really want to defend themselves, they're going to need a fortress. But Master Sav has come prepared, as she hands over a crate full of blasters for the villagers to use against any potential threats. It seems to be at the perfect time too, because shortly after an explosion goes off in a nearby bunker, and after searching through the debris, it looks like this was no accident and explosives were placed without anyone knowing. And now, with the threat of a Nihil attack being imminent, Lily decides that they should contact Starlight Beacon, only to discover that their comms are down completely. And without any way to reach Starlight, it looks like the only option is to go straight there in person. So with the suggestion from Master Sav, Lily leaves for Starlight with Nima and Vivnia, while Sav and Keerin stay behind to watch over everything. Lily and the younglings seem to have arrived at the perfect time, as everyone gathers in the halls for the rumble race that is about to begin. And while Lily decides to join in with the younglings, giving them a bit of a break, Lily quickly leaves the race as she finds the reason she came to Starlight, to talk with Master Arkoff and Master Geos. Lily explains the situation and asks for advice, only to learn that the advice given to her by Master Sav is exactly what she needed. Lily has been so rigid in her ways and has forgotten that she needs to be flexible, especially in uncertain times like this, and with new encouragement found, she heads back to Banchii. Back on Banchii, Keerin discovers that the comms failing was not a random incident, but intentional sabotage. And just like ever, according to plan, the Nihil are on their way. The Nihil land and storm the Jedi Temple, being stopped by Keerin, Sav, and the newly armed villagers. Lily rushes in to join the fight when she realizes that the younglings were left behind in the forest. Keerin feels up to the challenge though, and without a second's hesitation runs off into the forest in an attempt to find them, with Master Sav right on his tail. Keerin and Sav find the younglings and discover that the Nihil have a secret weapon that they plan to use in this assault. But again, without thinking, Keerin rushes in, taking one of the Nihil hostage in an attempt to get them to stand down. But the Nihil are one step ahead, showing Mr. Zerrett being held as a hostage of their own. Seeming to be outmatched, Keerin decides to stand down, only to discover that Mr. Zerrett was actually a Nihil operative in disguise as well, shooting Keerin right in the chest. Lily is stunned at the loss of her Padawan, but she unfortunately can't have any time to mourn, as the Nihil must be stopped by any means necessary, which includes Master Sav using the Nihil's weapon to destroy the Jedi Temple, with the Nihil still inside. After fending off the Nihil, Lily says her goodbyes to Keerin as a transmission comes through from Coruscant stating that Starlight Beacon has fallen, and that all Jedi must come to Coruscant immediately. But Lily chooses to stay on Banchii while the younglings will make their way to Coruscant instead, leaving Lily on her own to guard Banchii as the threat of the Nihil come closer as Marchion Ro approaches. Volume 2 of Edge of Balance is an easy 10 out of 10. The story is so good and the characters are just fantastic. The best part for me are the heavy involvement of characters and storylines from the High Republic Adventures comic series, as we see the rumble race on Starlight Beacon and Lily running into Zine and Lula Talisola. I will say the death of Keerin was unexpected and brought me to tears because he was such a likable character, and I was hoping to see both Lily and Keerin grow through the remainder of the High Republic. And just as Lily says herself, I wanted you to go farther than me, but this is too far. Overall, Edge of Balance is still extremely unique and such a great addition to the High Republic, and I eagerly await the release of Volume 3. But what were your thoughts? Do you like the storylines that are coming from Edge of Balance? Were you surprised by the death of Keerin Feon? And what are your thoughts on Master Sav Malligan? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. As always, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't. And remember, the Force will be with you. Always.